Hi, Exploring Colleges and Careers. Mr. Gavand here. Hope you're doing well. Hey, the quarter 3 is ending. We're not going to have a new assignment before the end of the quarter. It's just 2 days left. This is Tuesday, St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. Next week is the first week of quarter 4, but it's kind of a free-hanging week out there. It's right before spring break. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about two things, and it's not going to be anything too stressful. We're going to talk about something called the Northstar Promise, which is a program that Minnesota has to pay for school if your family's adjusted income is $80,000 or less. So we'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about something called the FAFSA. And the FAFSA is FAFSA. You might have heard of it. Usually you can fill it out when you're a senior in high school, way back in the fall. And if you're a junior or even a freshman or sophomore, it's really good to know that it's coming up. And so we're going to talk about the FAFSA. It stands for the Free Application for Student Aid. If you're going to go to any sort of training after high school, like maybe a trade school, a community college, or maybe you're going to go to a bigger school like St. Cloud State, University of Minnesota, Duluth, maybe you're going to go to a private school. For all those schools, you do need to fill out the FAFSA. And what the FAFSA does is it gathers info about you and your family and what sort of income you have and what assets or what resources, like if your family has different savings accounts and things, those all count. And what it's trying to do is figure out like what's reasonable for you to have to pay for school. And if you go to a school that the price is really reasonable, you may find that you only get a little bit of aid. If you are applying to and accepted to a school where it's pretty expensive, like maybe a private college or even University of Minnesota, some of the schools there can be pretty expensive, you might find that after you fill out the FAFSA, they give you quite a bit of aid. So you never want to, when you're thinking of what training or colleges to go to, you don't ever want to just look at the sticker price or the cost of attendance, because it's really going to be based on your need. And so the more expensive the program, often the more help you get to pay for it. One more thing. You may not know this about me, but I am a licensed school counselor. I also am a dad of 3 kids that have gone to different sorts of schools. I have I have a son who went to online school, Louisiana State, LSU. I had a daughter who went to a private school and nursing program. I have a son who's starting at a technical school, Anoka Tech, in the auto shop program soon. And then I have a younger one too, not even that old yet. But I have a lot of experience as both a counselor and as a parent, and I'm more than happy to help you. So like as you think about this info, and if you and your family have questions, feel free to send me a message, send me an email. I'm happy to talk to you and your parents. Even do like a Google Meet video. I want to help you. Maybe you already know about the FAFSA, maybe you've never heard of it, or the Northstar Promise. Really great programs in Minnesota, and I want to help you. So this video is going to be a little longer. I'm going to show you the Northstar Promise website. I'm also going to take you through a few slides that tells you more about the FAFSA. All right, I had Google Gemini help me put together a few slides with some info for you. I've been playing around with that, and so hopefully these slides are helpful to you as we talk about this. All right, I already mentioned this, but the Northstar Promise, that was passed a few years ago by our legislature, and it's a scholarship covering 100% of tuition and fees at Minnesota public and tribal colleges, and that's a lot of schools. So it doesn't include private schools. Those would have their own special scholarships and aid programs, but it does include a lot of schools in the state. I think it's 50-some schools, or 50-some campuses, 54 campuses. Have to be a Minnesota resident. It does have an income requirement, so if your family makes $80,000 and below, you'll qualify for this. And it doesn't have a separate application. You would just complete the FAFSA that I talked about. There's another document called the Minnesota Dream Act, but I would just recommend the the FAFSA. I think the Minnesota Dream Act is if maybe you don't have a Social Security number, that's an option for your family. So let's keep going. So you're going to need to complete the FAFSA, and it's right here on this slide, free application for student aid. And you do need a special ID called an FSA ID, and you can create that at this website, studentaid.gov. You'll need one as a student and one parent or guardian. It could be both, but at least one of you will need to do that, because some of the info that you'll need info from a couple years ago from your taxes, and it'll ask you, can we go get your info on taxes? So if you didn't file taxes, it actually is okay if your income was that low. It'll actually be good, because if you didn't file taxes, that means your income was very low. Or it could be, I guess some people aren't being honest, and that's your own deal if that's you. So you do want to create this FSA ID. I would say sometimes it's immediate and it's ready, but do it a few days before you start the FAFSA. And then you never want to share your login with anyone else. One more thing I'll note before you start the FAFSA. Two more things. One, use an email address that is a personal one. Don't use a school one, because once you finish high school in Robbinsdale or wherever you're going, you're not going to have access to that email anymore. So use a personal email address. If you need to create one, great. Use Google or Yahoo or whatever, but create an email address, or make sure you use one that's not tied to your school account. It should be personal. The other thing is, you don't want to start the FAFSA until you know at least one school or program that you want to go to. So I'll use an example. I have a son who's going to do the auto tech program, training to be a mechanic at Anoka Technical College. So at Anoka Tech, I'm going to put that on the FAFSA when we fill that out. So you can put up to 20 different programs or schools that you want to go to, but at least before you fill it out, at least figure out a couple programs or schools you're interested in, and you'll fill that out. Never share your login info with anybody else. One more thing to mention, I guess I lied earlier when I said, completing the FAFSA is not the same as applying for admission to that college. So the FAFSA is all about how you pay for the college, the financial aid part. So you do still need to often, like University of Minnesota, Northampton Community College, UMD, St. Cloud, whatever school you're going to go to, Bethel, Northwestern, whatever it is, you're still going to need to reach out to that school and apply to that school. But this is important for the financial part. All right, so here's the info you need for the FAFSA. You'll need Social Security numbers if you have them. I did mention that Minnesota Dream website. If for some reason a family member doesn't have a Social Security number, but for the FAFSA you do need that. It's going to be based on 2024 tax returns. It's always prior, 2 years prior to the year you're applying for. So like right now, seniors are looking at 26-27 school year, which is next fall already. That's when you'd be going. And so it's actually going to ask your family for info on what money you made back in 2024. It's always 2 years prior. If there's any untaxed income like child support or something, you do need a record of that too, because they know your family's getting that income. And then any current bank statements, investment records. This is important to know. This does not include retirement accounts. So if your family's never been through this before, if one of your parents or both of them or your guardian is saving for retirement, a lot of times your employer will be, something called a 401k or a 403b, and you don't need to worry about what those are. But the only thing I'll say is that does not count against in your FAFSA. So this would be more if someone just has investments, not in retirement accounts. So again, I'm making an offer to help out you or your family with this if you have any questions, so you can always ask me. All right, two ways to complete it. One is online. This is my recommended way. It's at FAFSA.gov. Pretty fast once you have the info. It probably will take you about 30 minutes. That's about it. 30 minutes to an hour at most. There is a part of that if either you or your parent or guardian made money and filed taxes. I mentioned that earlier. There's a way that you give consent when you're filling it out, and then it checks your tax info with it's called the IRS. So lots. You can rewatch this video if this is like making your head spin, but just know that you're going to have to give consent, because then it gets your info and makes sure it's right. If you don't want to do it online, there is a PDF version, and I'll include that in the folder of resources. Just there if you want it to see it. And so I don't recommend that, but that's certainly there. I think it's more work to fill it out that way. I've looked at both. So here's the dates. So this is especially applying to if you're a senior, because the 26-27 school year is already going to start up in like 6 months. Now, if you're a junior, you can already be thinking ahead, because this next October you could start filling out the FAFSA. So this doesn't really matter at this point, October 1st, 2025. That was quite a few months ago, 6 months ago, but that was just when you could have started filling it out, and maybe some of you already did. You have all the way until after the school year to fill it out, but I would almost ignore this one, because Minnesota has an earlier deadline. So let's say you're a senior and you're going to go to school this next fall. Let's just take the example of my son. He's at Anoka Tech. I think they start like the 3rd week of August. So already by like the middle of this next September, he would have had to fill out the FAFSA. We're not going to wait that long. We're going to fill it out soon here, I think in March or April. But just so you know, you have a little time, but you don't want to wait, because a lot of times schools that you're applying to, even if you don't get the Northstar promise or you don't qualify for that, they look at the students that are coming, and they might have aid that they give out, like money to help students pay for school. If they don't know that you're even attending there, or you haven't filled out the FAFSA, they don't even know to include you. So I would say if you're a senior and you're looking at going to a college or trade school or community college this coming fall, take this time now in this next couple of weeks, especially with spring break coming, and I'm not assigning much. I don't know about your other teachers. There's no better time than now. You can do it online. Identify a few programs you're interested in. As part of our class, we've already started looking at that, and we'll be looking at more of that after spring break. But if you're a senior this year and you want to go to a program, that's fine. We'll mention one more thing. I mentioned I'm a dad and I have kids. If you're not sure what you want to do, there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking a gap year to work. The only thing I'd recommend is have some goals during your gap year so that you're growing. Maybe you're learning something new. Maybe you're doing an apprenticeship or something to increase your skills. I think gap years can be great if you're not sure what you want to do, but you just don't want to waste the time and just spend it, doing nothing that really helps you in life. So that's my kind of school counselor and dad shtick about that. I'm happy to talk to you more about that if you decide. So, all right, let's keep going. So here's what I would like you to do. You can create an FSA ID at studentaid.gov. Parent or guardian can do that too. Gather your tax documents. Then go ahead and work on the FAFSA. You can get there from FAFSA.gov, or you can there's links at studentaid.gov to get the FAFSA done. Should take you 30 minutes, maybe an hour at most. Be careful of scams out there. Sometimes if you just do a Google search for FAFSA, it'll take you to other websites where they're trying to charge you money. It is absolutely free. So if you don't have the FAFSA.gov or the studentaid.gov website, and you're on some other site, don't put in this info. Make sure you're on the right site and make sure you're paying the right price, which is $0. All right, with that, we're going to wrap up this video. Reach out to me if you have any questions or you want help. Thanks.